It's April, and most of us are probably looking forward to our summer gardens, to the tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and to all the green foliage. But if we want to eat in the winter and during the hunger gap in the spring, there are some things that we need to sow right now. My name is Rebecca, and welcome to Mornings at the Allotment. As you can see here, I've got all my seeds on the table, spread out. I've already prepared what I need to show you now, but basically these 3 bins hold all my seed, except for a couple that are in a tin in the garden. It's kind of hard. Last year, I have to admit, I was very late sowing some of my winter vegetables. So this winter, while we did get to harvest some things, it wasn't ideal. So this year I started planning sooner, and I put down the sowing dates in my calendar so I wouldn't forget to sow some of these, because, for example, people are starting now to pick purple sprouting broccoli. If you don't sow it a year beforehand, you're not going to have a harvest. So let me jump right in with brassicas, since I started with the example of purple sprouting broccoli, which needs about 11 to 14 months to mature. There's a whole lot of brassicas that I've sown already for our summer harvest, but there are some that I'm going to be sowing now and in May for harvesting in the winter, or for storage, fermenting, for example. So let me just go through these. The purple sprouting broccoli that I've mentioned already, now is a good time to put that in. Then I have Chimarirapa, which I was given in a seed exchange, and I've looked it up. As far as I can tell, it's similar. It's also a sprouting broccoli type brassica. So I've never tried it. I don't really know anyone who's tried it. I got it anonymously in a seed swap. Then I have, let me just see, white cabbage and red cabbage. This one is called, it's a German variety. It's called turquoise. It's the white cabbage. I use that for making sauerkraut. And the red cabbage I also ferment. We like to eat that in the winter, and it's called Rodinda. Yeah, Rodinda. Then I have my cauliflower. I already have some cauliflower in. I sowed some cauliflower in the fall that is currently in the greenhouse growing. Now, we had a very cold spell this winter, colder than we usually have, so it might just bolt before it forms a head, which would be sad, but normally it should survive the winter well and give us a crop in May, early June. This is a late variety that I'm going to be sowing in, let me see, I didn't write it down, June, July, and plant it out in August. And then I can harvest it in October and November. So we have some fresh cauliflower in the fall. Then here's another red cabbage that I forgot. It's called Marna Lagerrot, also a German variety, or Dutch possibly. I'm not sure. Lager means storage, so this is also for storage. This I won't be fermenting, I'll just be storing the whole head. Then we have our Savoy cabbage. I have, this one is called Lerchenzungen. It's sown in May to June, and then it can be harvested all through the winter. This is called probably Vertu, French Vertu 2. It's also sown in May, June, and can be harvested beginning in September, and it's also cold hardy. And this one is called Westerländer Winter, and this is, let me see, for planting in June to July, and then also harvesting over the winter. So this is fairly old. This one we tried, but we're not very lucky with. And this is the third variety that I thought I'd try this year. So I'm trying them all, and then we'll see what we like best. As I said, last year I forgot to sow. I sowed too late, and then we weren't lucky with any of our crop, really. So I'll just be trying these three and to figure out what we'll be growing in future. Brussels sprouts. I'll be using this variety simply because we still have it. It should germinate just fine. It's called Rotnerf, and I've heard it works well in our climate. So this is for sowing April to May outside, and then we harvest October to February. Typical Brussels sprouts. Then I have some Abyssinian kale, and I have absolutely no idea what this is, also from a seed exchange, and I admit I haven't looked it up, so we'll all get a bit of a surprise here. Then I have my Cavallonero, or rather it's called Negro Romano. And I know I have some more seed somewhere. This is only 2. But since I can't find it, I'm currently letting 2 of our plants go to flower to collect some more seed. This is for sowing in April, but I should be fine sowing it in May because I have to wait for the seed to harvest the seed in the garden. And it says to harvest late summer to December, but in our case, it actually survived temperatures down to -8, -9. 2 of 10 plants actually survived temperatures of -13. So we'll be growing this again. And then I have 2 more types of kale. One is red Russian and the other is Siberian. Very frost hardy. Obviously the name says it. Russia and Siberia, they have to be frost hardy. And we'll be growing these also. All right, so that's the brassicas. Then I have some stuff that I've already sown, but I'm putting in last sowings now. That's garlic. We put in our garlic. We planted our garlic in the fall, but I am putting in more now in April, which is last minute. But I'm putting that in now for late harvest, hopefully, because you never know. Our temperatures, our summers are usually very warm and very long, so we should actually get a good harvest if we plant them now. And leeks, large American flag, which is supposed to be early, but you can leave it in longer. And this is specifically for the late harvest, and for winter harvest. This is called friso leeks. And also, let me see, my main crop potatoes, I'm putting those in April. I already have the first earlies and second earlies in. I'm putting the main crop in now, and I'm keeping some of them back for later harvest again. And but also with potatoes, if you grow them in pots, for example, you can just leave them in the pots and harvest them at a later date. And then if you haven't done it yet, I have to find where I put it. If you haven't done it yet, now is high time to do it. Celeriac. It takes a very, very, very long time to grow. So you want to put it in March, April, up to June. And then I think these take 6 months. Yeah, this one says 6 months. It's called ibis. And this one also says 6 months. So this is called monarch. I sowed these already, and we had horrible germination last year on the celery. So this year for the celeriac, I decided to completely oversow because the seeds are also a bit older. Well, they all germinated, so I have, 60. No. over 100 celeriac plants, seedlings, and there's no way we need more than one every other week. So I have 3 times as many as I need, basically, or 4 times even. So I'll just plant out the hardiest ones and then see if someone else wants the rest. While we're with the celeriac, I'll just add the celery. We grow tall Utah. We weren't very successful last year either. But these I actually harvest until November, and then I just take the rest out and dehydrate them and make celery powder to use in soups, or celery flakes. All right. So let me just, while we're doing the celeriac and celery here, go on to the root vegetables. The carrots are in the garden, I think. My carrot seeds, yeah. I have some turnips here that we sow in succession sowings. We've already started some, and we're going to keep sowing them until the end of August for a late harvest. And the same thing, these are called round white with a red head. I don't know. And the same thing goes for beetroot. I have Georgia, which you probably all know, which I also sow. I already have a first sowing, and then to about July, and golden Detroit, same thing. And with the late sowings, I can harvest them at the beginning of winter. I don't particularly like pickled beets, so this is for fresh eating at the beginning of winter and not for storage. Then another late crop is fennel. This is called pheno. It's also something that we harvest in late fall, early winter, but that's because our climate is really, we have mild winters, we have long warm spells. We don't usually get a frost before mid-November, and even then with some coverage they're going to be fine. And I'm going to put some of the fennel in the greenhouse, so depending on what winter we're expecting, I will be able to harvest these in the winter. Then let me see, rutabaga Swedes. These are called Wilhelmsburger, and they can be harvested also in September to November, in our case December, January, and they store well. So I'm just going to either leave them in the soil, or if we're expecting very, very hard freeze, I'm going to dig them out and store them in a bucket of sand. I do have some carrots left here that I didn't put away. Most of the carrots we grow for fresh eating, but these are oxala, and they can be harvested until December. They're short and stumpy, and also if you don't get hard freezes, if your ground doesn't freeze over, you can leave them in the ground and then just harvest them when you need them. So this is going to be my late sowing of carrots. Now, I've never been very successful with root vegetables in general. Well, beetroot, yes, but nothing that really goes deep into the soil. So parsnips, yes, I already have some in. I'm going to put some more in. We're putting these in the raised beds, just so they have an easier time going through the soil, because the soil, we do no-dig gardening with compost, but beneath that there's some really compacted soil, and we only started some of the beds last summer. So the best soil for root vegetables currently is in our raised beds, so that's where I'm putting these. They're called aromata, and they can be sown mid-March to mid-June, and then you harvest from October through to February, March. Also, along the same lines, parsley root looks similar, just a bit smaller. So it's basically parsley that is grown for the root and not for the leaves. I've been a bit more successful with these. They're not quite as difficult to grow, I've found, as parsnips. And then we have, I think it's called salsify, spelled S-A-L-S-I-F-Y, salsify, I think it's salsify. Or also called vegetable oyster, at least that's what the German packet says in Britain. They're a root vegetable, and then we have a black salsify. These are new to me. We have bought them in stores and eaten them, but I've never grown them, and my partner asked for them, so I'm just trying it this year. Okay, let me see. Maybe let me just, I'm not going to go into all the winter salads because it's too early to sow those, except chicories and radicchio. So the radicchio I have here, let's see what it's called. This Pala Rossa, and this is Pala Rossa too, can be sown now and into the summer. For harvest in, what does this one say? This one says July to October. We harvest it much later as well. And with radicchio, actually, if you leave in the root, it'll grow again. So you can get several harvests off the plant. So you just cut it off about 2 centimeters above the soil. And along the same lines is also the chicory. I've never tried it. I'm going to try it this year. I'm going to be making a video. My partner asked for it. We love to eat it. We buy it all the time, so it really makes sense to grow it, but you have to force it. You grow the root, and then you dig out the root and put it in your cellar or another cool place and force it in the dark, and then harvest these what you get as chicory. So yeah, direct sowing May to July, and then we'll see how that does, if we even get any roots to harvest, and if we do, whether that we'll actually get a harvest from it in the winter. Okay, let me do beans or legumes generally. Some of them I already planted. So the mange tous are already in the ground, and the peas that I grow are early sowing, March to April. So they're frost tolerant, but you can eat them fresh or shell them. So I like this variety. It's called Kleine Rheinländerin, which is a local German variety, and it's harvested in the summer, June, July, for eating fresh or for storage. And that's why I'm putting it in this video, because I like multi-purpose varieties. I don't like beans, for example. I have some here that can only be eaten fresh because sometimes you forget to harvest or you just have too much to do. So I do like having both, and also I like to have food from the garden to eat in the winter, which is what this video is about. So the peas and the broad beans, aqua dolce. The early sowings are already in for the summer, also for fresh eating or drying, but we're going to be doing a second sowing later on and leave them in over the winter, and they're going to produce for us during the hungry gap. We have many more beans than what I have here in front of me, but when we got the garden 2 years ago, well, we went on a shopping spree, and my partner especially kept forgetting what we had already bought and bought more. He's going to hate me for putting that in this video. But so this year we're basically mostly sowing what we have. These are called Hilda. I know you can get them in the UK. not sure about the US. I haven't grown them. I can't say much about them. Then I have, I think this is a dwarf or bush variety of Borlotti. Yeah, bush. It's a bush variety. Sowing March to July and then harvesting June to October. And of course, we're going to harvest these for storage. So we're going to let them dry on the plant. Then I have some also a bush or dwarf variety, some kidney beans, Canadian Wonder, that I haven't tried yet, but I've heard they work well in our climate. So I have these. And then I have, I just realized they're all bush varieties except for the Hilda. These are called, no, these aren't. These are climbing. They're called Blauhilde. I actually like beans that are a different color than just green because it makes it easier when you're trying to find them for picking. These are semi-late and stringless and virus resistant. It says so in English. It makes it easier for me. You sow them in May to June and harvest July to September. And basically, I think we must have grown them because the package is open, but I really can't remember much about them. So, yeah. And I have two more bush varieties here. The yellow ones are called Sonesta, and the purple ones are Purple Teepee. And we're also going to be sowing these May, June, and harvesting into October. And what we don't eat fresh, we can always freeze. So, yeah. And I just realized with the kidney beans and the Borlotti, I would like more storage varieties, so more that I can harvest for the actual beans and not for the pods. But I have these, and so we'll just have to freeze them because we can't. They don't do well dehydrated. I might try fermenting some. Never tried that before. All right, and the final category. Cucumbers, obviously, we do for the summer, but pickling cucumbers. I like to, actually, I don't pickle, I ferment. I like the salt fermentation better. And we use two types that are called Delicatesse, and these are Vorgebirgstraube. Not sure if there's a translation for that or if they even exist outside of the Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. But basically, with any of the pickling cucumbers, I like to sow them inside, but I also like to succession sow. So from mid-April to mid-June, I like to do 2 or 3 sowings, and then harvest them, and you can either pickle them or ferment them. Those, and then the winter squash for storage. This is actually the only variety I grow that is an F1 hybrid, but it is organic. It is the butternut, because the butternut, for some reason, they just don't do well. I tried an heirloom variety that I found somewhere, but the fruit didn't really look like butternut, so I don't know what it was. So I'm taking these. They're called Tiana, and they did really well for us last year. So I'm using the rest of that seed, if I can find it. I just realized. There they are. I do have 5 more left, so it appeared to be empty. And the other one we're growing because we like to just grow vertically, and these do very well for vertical growing, is Hokkaido, Red Kuri, and Uchiki Kuri. They're just 2 varieties. I needed new seeds because we had some cross-pollination going on. So I needed new seeds, and I decided to try these 2 varieties and just see how they do. So let me just see what else I have on my list. Nope, I think. Yes, well, another food that we eat in the winters obviously is canned tomato. So tomato paste, tomato sauce. But yeah, I've done a tomato tomato sowing video. So, and I'm sure I'll be doing a canning video in the summer as well. But that's also something to keep in mind. Don't just grow your tomatoes for eating fresh. Consider canning them. They're easy to water bath can because they're acidic. So you don't even need a pressure canner to do it. And it's really nice to just have bottled or canned tomatoes ready to cook with in the winter. All right, so I hope this was helpful for you. It was certainly helpful to me to actually go through everything and find my seeds, because many of these will be sown in April and the rest in May. And I'm so focused right now on I'm looking over here because that's where they are. I'm going to show you in a minute all my tomatoes. And upstairs we have all the peppers. Here, my asparagus. Isn't that beautiful? I'm so focused on the summer garden as well. But I really didn't want to make the same mistake I made last year and forget about my late sowings. So, yeah. If you have any questions about the varieties, do ask. It's so much, I don't think I'll be able to put it all under the video, but don't hesitate to ask. I'll help you out as much as I can, trying to figure out maybe if the varieties exist in other countries as well. I know some of them do, but some of them might be under a different name or not available at all. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and the weather right now isn't too great, but I hope the next video will be at the allotment again. Bye.